And let's talk about something in this country that maybe the balance is a little tougher, and that on the boycott and divestment and sanction issue, and that's college campuses.
Oh yeah.
Because you have groups that are trying to appeal to students, Jewish students and non-Jewish students,
Sure.
to say Israel is bad because ... And on the one hand, again, going back to this balance, you don't want to discourage talk about real live political issues, whether you agree with the tactics of the Netanyahu administration or you don't, versus something that might be funded by a very strong anti-Israel kind of campaign.
Right.
So how do you keep the messaging as open and broad as possible and encourage dialogue, at the same time as you're trying to tell a story that this BDS movement is really a bad thing?
The truth is, I think it depends on the context. In the case of Clayton, they hadn't been here in a long time. They were picking on a high school. There are students who do want to become activists in this. I don't want to stomp on anybody's activism, but I do want to balance the teachable moment with giving them what they want, which is PR.
Right.
I think what we have received over the years of doing this is some level of commitment by media institutions not to cover the event.
Mm-hmm.
There were a number of television stations that were at the event who took tape in case something happened that they needed to report as news, but then did not, and specifically chose not to. And there were other print media outlets that did the same thing.
Right.
And then Clayton did what they had to do. If I would have preferred they did nothing, but they created a teachable moment. The students went back, and in a lot of the classes there was a lot of conversation and learning and stuff like that. There is another event coming up in March.
I see.
It is not the Westboro Baptist Church. It is a chapter of Aryan Nation.
I see.
And that one is going to be a little bit different. The Westboro Baptist Church does not commit violence. They never have, and they never will. I can't say the same for people in white supremacy, some of whom not only are aggressive themselves, but will attract a very aggressive element
Sure.
and counter-protest. So that's a whole different game, and that's how much information can we supply to law enforcement that gives things like accurate head counts, who are the players who are coming, what is their background, and what would it be appropriate for law enforcement jurisdictions to do to properly prepare for them.
Let's talk about something happy. I think happy, and that's your World of Difference program. Because you really since this was started, you were one of the first groups around the country to do it.
Right.
You've certainly been one of the most consistently and persistently active and effective in it.
Right.
Thousands of teachers, students, police. Others have been educated about bias, about hate. Talk about that and what it means to you and the organization, and about kind of where we're going as a world as a result of programs like that.
All the other stuff almost doesn't matter if we can't do education. And I think the focus has been on youth, and it's been on teachers, and all of that's incredibly important. Since we started, we're celebrating 25 years of doing the work this year. We estimate about 135 students and teachers and police officers and other individuals have been presented and have participated with our training. The number nationally, I think, is 56 million have been impacted by a World of Difference through broad teacher programs that funnel down into classroom curricula.
Yeah, and how many do you figure in St. Louis?
We figure here about 135,000 since 1987. And roughly it's about 2,500 a year right now. We could do more if we had more staff, more people. We've got a rather marvelous group of people we call facilitators, who are the independent contractors who are nationally and professionally trained, who actually do our presentations. But I also get in there as well, because that's part of the fun. And it is optimistic. It is learning. It is people confronting their bias, but in a positive, safe, and secure way. It is doing activities that kind of make you knock yourself on the head to make sure that in the front of your mind you're always paying attention. Am I stereotyping somebody? Am I treating them differently and potentially less than because of the assumptions I make? And should I get to know them differently so that I don't do that?
You've come here and talked to us?
Oh, look, it's everybody. But trying to say, okay, you have bias and you have it all the time and you have to work on it all the time isn't the easiest of conversations. But I think people see the returns. I know businesses see enormous return on issues around recruiting in diversity and retaining employees. I think when people get along and they like where they're working and they feel valued as individuals, they do better, and that's good for the bottom line. The truth is, in school, it's a big deal too. If you enjoy being where you are, if you're not bullied, if you have a sense of acceptance, and a sense of of worth in your own identity, you're not going to be as biased about people around you. The big shift I think that will start this year, and then I hope will continue over the next few years, is around early childhood. While we are doing mostly middle and high school programming, there's a real urgency now around the little ones. The scientific research is there about little kids and bias, particularly race and gender. And so now we are looking to expand significantly what we call our Miller Early Childhood Initiative, which is for is with Sesame Workshop, and is for teachers, educators, caregivers, administrators, and parents.
Karen, thank you so much.
I'm glad to talk about it, Claire.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time. Hey, 5 on 5.